esteemed guests, and especially the amazing young women here today. As we begin our ceremony, we want to acknowledge that we gather at the University of Verne out in the traditional land of the Togwa people, past and present, and honor the gratitude of the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. We are so happy to welcome you to the Girl Scout Game event right here at the University of La Verne. We're so excited to have everyone here to celebrate the empowerment, perseverance, and incredible spirit of young female athletes. We hope you have a fantastic time enjoying all the activities we have planned for you today. Now please stand, if able, join me in welcoming the ULV choir to perform the national anthem.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. The rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you to the ULV choir for that beautiful rendition of the national anthem. Now, to kick off our program and to honor the initiative of the annual Girl Scout Games celebration, I'd like to welcome the president of the Foothill Citrus Athletic Director Association, Robin Lacus Garcia.
I was going to try to just jump up there, but that could have been a mess. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right, thanks, Sarah Vista. Welcome to the Foothill Citrus Girls Got Game Conference. Here we are. I'm Robin. I'm the president of the Foothill Citrus Athletic Directors Association, better known as FACADA. You might have heard that. You're like, what the heck's FACADA? So it's the association that all of you are in as student athletes. FACADA and the University of La Verne collaborated to present to you this celebration of female in sports. But first, you gotta thank some people. So please thank your athletic directors and your athletic administrators for inviting you to be here today. FACADA and the University of La Verne collaborated, and so this one person, Miss Ebony, who was up here earlier, she's a rock star. Thank you so much for helping us. The University of La Verne worked so hard to make this so great for us, so we thank all of them. Thank you, University of La Verne. It's funny, it's like we can get on the field, we can get on the court and not be nervous, and once we do that first kick, that one shoot, whatever we do, we jump in the pool, then we're all fine and we're calm. I was a student athlete for many years, and I'm like nervous beyond nervous. Okay, here we go. Today we celebrate you, the athletes who show up every day with grit in your hearts, resilience in your mindset, and persistence in the pursuit of greatness. You push through doubt, rise after setbacks, and keep chasing your goals even when it's hard. Let today remind you of how powerful you are, how much you matter, and how limitless your potential truly is. You will hear from current and former female student athletes, listen and learn from their experiences, support one another, and leave here ready to own your voice and your future. You've got game, girls, on and off the field. Let's have an incredible day. Our next person who will speak to us, Mr. Mike West, is our Southern Section Commissioner. And I also forgot to thank CIF Southern Section for being here as well today, but Mike will take care of business. Thank you, Mr. Mike.
Thank you, Robin. Appreciate it very much. Well, what a great crowd this is. Fantastic. I'm really happy to be here and to see such a great gathering of young ladies here for the Foothill Citrus Athletic Directors Association meeting that we have for Girls Got Game. I want to congratulate you on being selected to participate in this event. Being here means that someone saw some potential in you, some leadership potential for you to come here, gather some of this experience, and hopefully bring what you learn perhaps back to your school site and to the rest of your team. You're going to hear from some great speakers with some wonderful experience and who are leaders and powerful examples of leadership in sports and athletics and beyond. Listen closely, take notes, and take what resonates from the speakers that they bring to you today. And again, bring those back to your teammates, because that's how leadership multiplies. You guys are leaders in this room. And make sure that you take that responsibility seriously and bring that back to your home sites and be leaders there as well. The CF Southern Section has 550 member schools and almost 300,000 athletes throughout its area. As an organization, we've made a strong commitment to support girls' athletics across Southern California. We currently offer 18 sports specifically for females, which is more opportunities than the boys have as far as number of sports. Over the last 10 years, we've added girls wrestling, lacrosse, beach volleyball, traditional competitive cheer, and this year we're going to have our first championship in stunt. Our goal is equity and participation. There's still more boys participants than girls participants overall in the section and in the state, but that gap is narrowing quite a bit, and we're looking forward to the time when there's the same number of girls participating as there are boys. Girls sports were first introduced in the CIF back in 1971. Some of you, that might seem like a long time ago. That was within my lifetime, and I think a few of those over there as well. So girls sports wasn't a CIF recognized situation before 1971. And in 1974, they had their first championships. And the sports were badminton, basketball, field hockey, gymnastics, softball, swimming and diving, tennis, track and field, and volleyball. 9 sports. That was it. Those early opportunities existed because others fought for them. All of you are able to compete today because of their persistence and their courage. Don't take that for granted. Honor that legacy by competing with purpose, gratitude, and pride. So far as your responsibility for leaders, remember, you're being watched. Younger athletes see how you compete. They notice how you treat teammates, opponents, officials. You set the standard and you set the example. Please be champions of character, not just champions on the scoreboard. How you play matters, how you lead matters, and who you become as a result matters. Finally, in your sport, remember this: play to have fun, and play because you love the sport. When you play for other pressures, expectations, external validation, for other reasons, that's when burnout takes place, and that's when mental health challenges can arise. Have joy in the sport that you're participating in, because joy will bring about excellence, and passion is a part of that, leadership. And I'll leave you with this. Compete with gratitude, lead with integrity, and leave a legacy worth following. Enjoy today's event. Thank you for being here. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. And I'm bringing up the next speaker.
Thank you, Mike and Robin. How are you ladies doing this morning? Really? Doesn't sound like it. Let's try that again. How are we doing today? You're not in class. This should be a great time for all of you. Once again, thank you, Mike and Robin, for your warm welcome. And ladies, once again, welcome to the annual Girls Got Game celebration hosted here at the University of Laverne. Now, it brings me great joy to introduce a remarkable leader in the sports, rehab, and performance world who exemplifies community, innovation, and excellence. With a wealth of experience working with elite athletes, including NFL players, MLB, PGA, MLS, NBA, and more, let's just add all of the professional sports leagues to that, the newly married Dr. Emily Frey McFerrin has dedicated her career to advancing athletic performance and injury prevention. From directing cutting-edge biomechanic research to running her own specialized rehab and sports performance company, Emily's work continues to push the boundaries of sports medicine and athlete care. Please join me in giving a warm and enthusiastic welcome to Dr. Emily Frey McFerrin, whose innovative work continues to inspire athletes and professionals alike.
All right, thank you guys so much for having me here today. Like Lena said, my name is Dr. Emily Free or Dr. Emily McFerrin. I did just get married, so getting used to the whole identity shift. You can call me either. I am a physical therapist. I primarily treat NFL and MLB athletes, so I primarily both rehab and train professional athletes. I'm going to get into a little bit more of who I am and what I do in a moment. But first, I want to touch on the themes of your guys' conference this year, which was grit, resilience, and perseverance, and why these qualities are so essential, not just for you in your athletic endeavors and your athletic achievement, but for life. That these are qualities that are going to allow you to excel if you want to work in sports, lead in any capacity, or ultimately pursue a profession with excellence wherever life may take you. So these qualities, when I think of grit, this is the toughness that allows you to face difficult situations and difficult opportunities. Resilience is your response when you get knocked down. Will you get back up again and stay in the fight? And perseverance is what you do when it gets tough. Do you continue on that challenge even when it's uncomfortable? So these are the qualities that you rely on when you are facing a really hard conditioning test and you don't want to finish, but you do anyways. When you're facing an opponent who is bigger, stronger, faster than you. And ultimately, it's qualities that I see in my professional athletes in my practice every day. In the off season, it's the qualities that they rely on when they're in the weight room and they're pushing for a PR, or in the off season when they are training day in, day out, when nobody is watching, to be even just a little bit better at their sport, to have that advantage come season. And ultimately, it's qualities that I see when guys have season-ending injuries or they get cut. They face these massive obstacles, and it's what they rely on to stay focused on their goals, continue on their path, in the ultimate face of some of the most disappointing obstacles. And these aren't just qualities that are inherent to professional athletes. It's not just things that people are born with, and some people have and some people don't. Grit, resilience, and perseverance are choices. They are the day in, day out, disciplined decisions that you make to show up and choose hard things, to stay in the hard things once you are there, and the process by which you are changed. So it is true that when you do hard things, you not only physically change, but you mentally change as well. I want to tell you about a really interesting study done on the prefrontal cortex of the brain. So this is your part of your brain that's responsible for decision-making, emotional regulation, critical thinking. And they looked at people who regularly and consistently exposed themselves to physically hard things, whether it was small, like doing a cold plunge every day, or large, like competing in races and competitions on a regular basis. People who chose into doing physically difficult things, like you all do in your sport, training, competing, conditioning, on a regular basis, over time, their prefrontal cortexes literally grew. So their brain is getting rewired and hardwired to face challenges better and more frequently the next time, the more often you do it. So why does this matter? beyond the athletic field and beyond just your sports training. There's another interesting study done in corporate America, and they looked at the promotion behaviors of men and women. So what they found is that on average, men applied for promotions when they were 60% qualified for that position. And on average, most often, women applied for promotions only when they were 100% qualified. So what that tells me is that in the career world, men are more likely to reach sooner and to reach more frequently. Women are more likely to wait until they're qualified. Now, the result of that is that men are going to get more reps. They may be told no more, but they're also going to be told yes more because they're reaching more frequently. And ultimately, the result of that is if you look at C-suite positions in the corporate world, so those are your CEOs, your CMOs, your CFOs, the people who are on the executive leadership boards of most of the companies in this country, 71 to 88% of those positions are held by men. I don't love that. I hope you don't either. And while there are some other patriarchal things that I think we need to knock down to change that number, part of that reason and part of that result is that men are pushing more frequently and they're pushing sooner. But the caveat that I think we can all learn from is that the women who do hold those C-suite positions, the women who are on the highest level of their executive boards and the highest level of leadership within their companies, 94% of them were athletes. 94% of them were women like you, sitting in the seats that you are, pushing an athletic achievement. And I think the difference is that those women, through their history of athletic careers, have hardwired their brains to push for opportunities before they were 100% qualified and not wait for opportunities. Because that's the epitome of athletic development. The epitome of athletic development is that you are pushing your body to do things that it could not do previously. You are pushing to do things that you were not yet qualified for. And I think these women, over time, their brains have changed because they are consistently putting themselves in hard positions to do hard things, to take hard opportunities. And what that's done is it has hardwired their brains over time to choose into hard opportunities, to choose into tough situations, to get back up if they get knocked down, to keep applying if they get told no, and ultimately to stay in the fight and achieve. And then the result of that is they are getting to the highest level of their careers. It's changed the way that they show up, not from just athletics, but through their careers as well. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself and my story and how I got to where I am, and how this exact theme has played out in my life and in my career. So like Lena mentioned, I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I also have an additional board certification as a sports clinical specialist. I'm emergency response for the athlete certified. I have another certification as a strength and conditioning specialist for sports performance, and I have an advanced certification in manual therapy. So you could look at my resume and say, of course, she treats almost exclusively professional athletes. She's 100% qualified to do so. But what if I told you I started treating professional athletes before I had any of those extra qualifications? When I was in physical therapy school, I was told by 2 professors that if I wanted to work in professional sports as a female, it was going to be really difficult. And the advice I was given was to go into outpatient orthopedics and treat regular people, or NERPs as we call them, and try and attain more certifications and qualifications and wait for an opportunity to arise. My first job out of school, I was treating professional athletes. So you can tell how seriously I took that advice. So to explain my mindset and how I got to this position, I want to give you one example from my athletic career when I was your guys' age. So I played soccer my entire life. And when I was in high school, my freshman year, I made the Frosh-Off team. So the next year, when it comes to tryouts, what was I likely qualified to do? Probably try out for the JV team. Could never be me. When it came time for tryouts, I walked straight over to the varsity side because I wanted to play on varsity. I made the team. I was the only Frosh-Off player to walk over to varsity to try out for varsity. Turned out I was the only player in the history of that school to jump from Frosh-Off to varsity. Within 2 games that season, I was starting, and the next year I was the captain. So I chose into the hard opportunity. I chose into the opportunity that on paper I was not 100% qualified for. And the process of showing up, I then took the grit to make sure that I was going to be excellent in that opportunity. So the process of showing up for that opportunity, of competing against girls who were bigger, stronger, faster, older, more talented than me, is what prepared me for that opportunity. Fast forward to college, I was not recruited for soccer for college, and you better believe that I found myself as a walk-on athlete. Now, most people, when they hear walk-on athlete, they hear athlete that went to school and was still recruited but just wasn't given a scholarship. No. After 3 years of banging down the D1 coach's office door, I found myself in a one-on-one tryout with the captain of the team. So fast forward to my career as a physical therapist. I'm in physical therapy school. I'm still a student. And I give you those soccer examples just to tell you that this is kind of the same attitude. This is what trained my brain to pursue my career the way I did. So fast forward to physical therapy school, I gained a clinical rotation in a very high-end sports performance clinic that treated professional athletes. And they did it with research. They did it by researching biomechanics and evaluating the biomechanics and the physics of how these athletes moved. Because it was such an advanced form of physical therapy, even new grad physical therapists were not qualified to work in this clinic. The physical therapists that were working in these clinics were fellows. So they had 3 levels of certification above what I did as a student. And so as a student, my job was really just to observe. I was not qualified to be independently treating patients. And after about 2 weeks of observing, the next patient that came in, I just took their paperwork and eval'd them myself. And I said, I can do what these people are doing. I have taken the time to learn this research, to study the data, to observe what they're doing. I got this. For whatever reason, they let me. After that, every single patient that came into that clinic, I took their paperwork, I did their eval, I studied, I learned, I treated them. By the end of that 4-month rotation, I was independently evaluating and treating almost every patient that came into the clinic, and it was the fellows that were watching me. Now, the owner of that clinic was so impressed that when I graduated, he recommended me for a job out of school in a similar sports performance clinic that had a research biomechanics lab and contracts with an NFL agency to treat professional athletes. I would have never been qualified for that job. And in fact, most new grads were not qualified for that job. But because I jumped and reached and leaped and pushed, and to be honest, had the audacity that I did as a student, showing up to those opportunities is what prepared me for that job. Now, fast forward to that first job, and 2 weeks before, we're supposed to run a program called Pre-Combine and Pre-Draft Prep. So this is a program in which college football players who are declaring for the NFL draft, they go through a 3-month rigorous program where they are getting evaluated and trained to prep for that transition process. And our clinic was responsible for the rehab and some of the training of that process. 2 weeks before that's supposed to start, my boss tells me he has a family emergency, he's going to Chile. Can I run the program by myself? If you're learning anything about me at this point, my greatest characteristic is just the audacity. And so without a shadow of doubt, I said yes. At this point in time, I have not watched one football game in my life. I know absolutely nothing about football. But what I do know is my ability to show up for hard things, to accept hard challenges, and then have the grit and perseverance to grind my way into being excellent at it. So for 10 hours a day for the next 2 weeks, I studied football. I created the individual biomechanics evaluations for each player. I ran the entire program by myself. Fast forward, those players were so happy with my care that once they made it to the league, they came back to see me as patients. They started telling their teammates and other friends in the NFL about me. Now, fast forward 10 years later, in the offseason, I have NFL players from around the country, every team flying out to see me in Southern California to train with me or rehab with me in the offseason. The team that's local to me are the Chargers. During the season, on a 53-man roster, I treat 26 of them. And during the NFL season, I have players from all different states and all different teams who fly me out for treatment because they rely so heavily on my care. Am I very qualified to do what I do now? Am I very qualified to treat the people I do now? Absolutely. But this all started because I did the hard thing to accept hard opportunities, to push for opportunities that I was not yet qualified for. And I didn't just sit there in those opportunities. I had the grit and perseverance to make sure that once I was in that opportunity, that I was excellent at it. I did not wait around for somebody else to give me an opportunity. I pushed and sought and fought to find them myself and then made sure that I was qualified for them. And that process literally changed the way I showed up. It changed the way I pursued my career. And so much of that was learned and ingrained and created from my athletic career when I was your guys' age. And so my commission to you guys as you leave here today, as you pursue your athletic careers in high school, potentially in college, and then as you pursue whatever life has for you after school, is to do the hard thing. Push for the opportunity that you do not yet feel qualified for. Do the hard thing, stay in the hard thing when it gets tough, and keep pushing to do what you want to do. Because it not only will change how you show up physically, it will change how you show up mentally. It will physically change your brain, and it will lead the course of your life, not just in athletic achievement, but in life as well. Thank you, guys. I don't know if we have time for questions.
All right, let's hear it one more time for Emily. who is drastically understating her resume. If you guys are at all interested more about learning about her and what she does, check out social media. It's really awesome, a great tool for you guys to get connected with some of the incredible women that you'll meet today and get to know a little bit. But are there any questions that any of you guys might have for Emily? Just raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you. Yeah.
So throughout your journey, I just want to know, did you have any setbacks, and like what was the best piece of advice do you have for us when we face those challenges? And
Yeah, for sure I had setbacks. I've been told no, I've missed opportunities. In my sports career, I had a career-ending injury. I think my biggest piece of advice is when you get told no, don't be discouraged. Keep trying, learn from it, let that basically fuel you for the next opportunity. So I would say in career, when I've been told no, it has not deterred me. I've just continued on to do what I do and continue to pursue opportunities and essentially just not allowed myself to be fazed by it, but be willing to take criticism, to take feedback. And then in athletic careers, I think my biggest setbacks were always injuries, which ultimately led me to being a physical therapist. But I think especially when you face those setbacks in athletics, your biggest tool in your toolbox is your mindset. I've seen so many players also be injured, and the biggest difference I think in how their rehab process goes is basically their mindset on their recovery and how basically willing they are to be in the fight and not get discouraged and not give up and stay positive. So yeah, I've definitely had setbacks, but I think all in all, I would say I just haven't let it discourage me.
There's another hand over here, right? There we go.
You said a big part of getting to where you are is having like perseverance. Did you take a lot of hard classes in high school?
Yes, I love this question because yes, I took almost exclusively honors and AP classes when I was in high school, and then I took some advanced tracks when I was at USC as well. And then obviously went on to pursue my doctorate. So academic achievement is really important to the career that I've chosen. And, a lot of people ask about how, especially in my industry, a lot of people ask about how do you get into professional sports. And especially at your age, the biggest thing that I would say is to push yourself academically and pursue academics and pursue excellent academics, because a lot of how I got to where I got was because I worked really hard in school and I got really good grades. I came out of high school with a 4.8 GPA, which is what helped me get into USC. I graduated top 2 in my major when I was an undergrad at USC, and then when I was in my doctorate program at USC, I graduated number 1 in my class. So a lot of the opportunities that were presented to me was initially because I excelled in school. So I would absolutely encourage all of you guys that working really hard in school, taking hard classes, it will only ever help you, and it is worth the struggle.
Any other questions? Okay, we're gonna run.
Go, Lena, go. Lena was an athlete too. Look at her
Cowboy
go.
Too many surgeries later, I can't do this. Where was our hand? There we go.
How did sports help you prepare for life?
I think for me, a huge part of what sports did is it gave me a love of fighting really hard for something. I loved feeling like I was doing something with purpose and with passion. I loved working hard at things. I loved the feeling after a soccer game, feeling like you put it all on the line. I loved the grit of going shoulder to shoulder with somebody. I love the nastiness of slide tackling people. I got told all the time, and this is probably why I didn't initially get recruited out of high school, I got told all the time that I played soccer like a linebacker. Ironic that I would then go on to work with NFL athletes. No finesse, just all physicality. So I think the grit and the push and the drive of sports is a huge part of what has characterized the rest of what I've pursued in life, whether it be friendships, community, or my professional career.
Hi, my name is Raquel. I wanted to ask, it sounds like you have a lot of pressure, and everything that you did and to get where you are today. I'm sure that could have been hard on your mental health. Did you struggle with anything, and what did you do to get through it?
I love that question. Yeah, I think my biggest mental health hurdle has definitely been burnout. And I think in that drive to be excellent at what I do in those high pressure situations, I would really wear things personally, and I had a lot of anxiety. Like, for example, if I was treating an NFL athlete, if they weren't getting better, I'd have anxiety. If I cleared them to go back and play, I was so anxious about whether or not they were going to get re-injured, if they were doing what they needed to do. I was so emotionally invested in them succeeding and ultimately my success. It did produce a lot of anxiety for me, which ultimately produced a lot of burnout. And so what I've had to learn to do is control what I can control and let go of what I can't control. So the things that I could control were how I was showing up for my athletes in rehab, how well I had researched their conditions, how well I knew their protocols, the creativity with which I was approaching their situations, the dedication, all of that kind of stuff, the relationships. I could control those things, and then I had to let the rest go. So for me, it was really about just focusing on what I could control and allowing the rest to happen, and realizing that not everything, I can't carry everything for an athlete. At some point, they have to do the work themselves, and at some point, some injuries and things are inevitable. And so just being able to let go of the things that were never supposed to be on my plate to begin with.
All right, I think we got time for 2 more, so we'll go over on this side, and we'll get one from that side. Grace, what are next?
What's your favorite part about your job?
Oh, love this question. My job is so fun, you guys. So my absolute favorite part of my job is the relationships that I have with my professional athletes. A lot of my guys right now in the NFL, some of them I've been treating for 8 years, 9 years, since they were a rookie now into them being vets. And in that process, I get to basically take care of 360 cares. So in the off season, I'm doing their strength and conditioning program, and they're training with me, and we're on the field, and I'm teaching them position drills and taking them through things, and that is so fun, but also so challenging. And then in season, I'm taking care of their recovery and all the wear and tear from practice and games, and then when they do get injured, I am the first call. So I've gotten calls from the locker room with guys in tears. They've dislocated their ankle, or they've torn their ACL, and I really appreciate having that relationship where I have trained with them, worked with them for years on end, year round, and so when the crisis hits, I am the first call, and being able to be there for somebody in that moment and say, you know what, tragedy just struck, but I got you, and we're going to get through this together. I absolutely adore that part of my job, and I take that really seriously. Those personal relationships are really special. All these guys I've come to know their wives and their kids, and I just got married, and some of those guys came to my wedding, and I've been to their weddings, and I just really value those relationships and being able to be that person in somebody's time of need.
Did you always know the pathway you wanted to have, like career path?
That's a good question. The answer is no. So I actually went to USC as a journalism major, and then switched my major about halfway through, and I was pre-med. I think I didn't, again, this is probably something that you're seeing thematically in my story, but as a journalism major at USC, I didn't feel super challenged academically. And so my response to that was just to say, okay, what's the hardest thing I can do? And in my mind at the time, I was like, well, I'll just be a doctor. I'll go to medical school. Not necessarily because I felt passionate about medical school, but I was like, that's the hardest thing I can do. And my brain is wired to do hard things and to be challenged. So I switched my major to pre-med. And about a year into that, a very good friend of mine was like, you know what, you're an athlete. You love relationships and people. I know you're pre-med, but I really think you'd be a good physical therapist. Just give it a shot. And so I volunteered in a PT clinic and absolutely fell in love, and then switched my path again to physical therapy. And then while I was in physical therapy school, I did some clinical rotations in pediatrics, primarily working with kids with neurodevelopmental disorders, and I absolutely loved it. But I always obviously knew that I had a passion for sports, and so by the end of PT school, I was actually very torn between pediatrics and sports, and ended up making the game time decision to work with basically the large kids instead of the small kids. But so yes, I changed my career path multiple times.
Let's do these last 2 right here since they're close to the front. I've got to say, I'm a little disappointed Phoebe wasn't mentioned in your favorite part of the job.
Oh, that's
We need
so
a quick
true.
mention about Phoebe.
I have a 4-year-old Bernedoodle who has been coming to the clinic with me since she was 8 years old. And she's my little therapy dog, and she absolutely loves all my patients, and she's really freaking cute. And if you come up to me afterwards, I will show you a picture of her. But
Hi, my name's Grace. I go to Walnut High School. I know you said you work with the NFL and the MLB. Who would you say is the most famous person on your contact list right now?
that's such a good question. And have you ever heard of something called HIPAA?
Yeah.
It is unfortunately something legal that makes it so I cannot tell you who I treat.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know Kike Hernandez?
Do I know Kike Hernandez?
Yeah.
I do not. I can say that. So sorry. I do not. Lena might, though. You should talk to Lena about that.
I do know Kike Hernandez, and I do have his phone number. But we'll leave that there. Let's give Emily one big round of applause. Thank you, ladies, for your attention during this session. And like I mentioned earlier, any questions or anything that you guys have, don't hesitate to go on social media, find the ladies that are speaking today, and reach out to them. A big part of being a woman in sports is connecting with other women, networking with them, and a lot of that starts with some cold DMs and some cold messages of how did you get to where you are? How can I, replicate what you did for my career, my education? Oftentimes, when we get these messages, it's always absolutely. What can I do for you? How can I guide you in the right direction? Very rarely are you going to be met with a, ignored DM, hopefully not. But oftentimes you reach out to these women, they're going to help you. They're going to lift as they rise. They're going to help point you in the right direction as best as they can. So one last time for Emily, let's get a big round of applause. All right, so we hope you guys are having a fantastic morning at this wonderful celebration. Today's more about sports. It's a chance to build confidence, to create connections, and inspire the next generation of amazing female leaders. We've got an awesome lineup of activities in store for you, including inspiring speakers, an engaging Q&A session, and plenty more to ignite your passion for sports and beyond.
Let's go ahead and get right back into it. So welcome back. As we dive into this event, let's keep in mind that you guys are part of such a fun community here. You're going to keep hearing that word community. Continue to lean into it. Continue to meet new people, get to know people in a different way that you might not have known them before. Connect with each other. Definitely build those relationships because you never know when those connections are going to come through later on in life. Now we have a really fun portion of this program where you guys get to hear from 4 incredible women and hear about their journeys and what has inspired them throughout this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our fantastic panel, starting with Sulema.
All right, can you all hear me? Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for having me. My name is Sulema Felix, and I'm the Senior Manager of Fan Engagement for Angel City Football Club. I hope you all have heard of Angel City at some point in your life. If you haven't, I'm glad I'm here. So what I do is I lead all the camps and clinics that we put out into the neighborhood in different areas of LA and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to engage with soccer, whether it be competitively, recreationally. And so we want to make sure that people have that opportunity, make some friends, have some fun, and maybe, go on and become a professional athlete. But if not, find ways to use what they learn on the field back into their lives and build some character traits that will help them throughout their life. So that's currently my role now, and just excited to be here. And thank you all so much for having me.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen Munoz. I'm very excited to be here. I've been in your shoes. I've listened to panelists, and also it's really cool for us to be out here and kind of remind us of where we come from. I was born in LA and then grew up a little bit in Orange County. I played Division I soccer at the University of New Mexico. Right after that, I made probably the hardest decision and the biggest decision of my life, and I went to Mexico City to play professionally for Club America, probably one of the biggest clubs in Mexico. Best decision of my life. Played a little bit here and there with the national team for Mexico, my grandparents are Mexican and my parents were born here, so I was, grateful enough to play for Mexico as well. I transitioned to being a content creator. I decided to hang up the cleats pretty early and kind of fell into that. And it was also the best decision ever. I do that now, and I'm still involved in soccer. I feel like the sport never really leaves you, which is amazing. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Niani Shields. I am a student here at the University of La Verne. I'm currently on the women's basketball team. A senior, expected to graduate in May, so that's exciting. Thank you. Off the court, I do a lot of stuff like volunteering. I spend a lot of my time helping children who are in kind of underserved communities, tutoring. I most recently just got accepted into an internship program, so I'm looking forward to starting that before going to nursing school next spring. And yeah, so I'm excited to be here with you guys and excited to hear all of your questions.
Hi, my name's Dr. Randy Taylor Toomey. I am the assistant women's volleyball coach here at La Verne and a professor of education here at La Verne. I'm from Glendora. I see you guys. And I actually came to the first ever Girls Got Game with Diamond Ranch, where I spent a lot of time teaching. Diamond Ranch, where are you guys at? Where are we? We're small but mighty here today. Okay, so I came to La Verne as a student athlete to play volleyball, and I stayed here ever since. I've never left. I got my teaching credential, spent some time teaching at Diamond Ranch High School, came back to get my master's and eventually my doctorate degree. I am coaching and teaching here currently, and we just lost in a national championship. There went the picture. Very proud to be a La Verne Leopard and owe a lot of my career and my successes to this place and Glendora and being a female student athlete. So I'm very excited to be part of this today.
Thank you, ladies. And my name is Dr. Angelina Stalmont. I am a 3-time graduate of the University of La Verne here. Very similar to Randy, you kind of never leave this place. And when you do, it has a special way of bringing you back. There are so many special people here. There's so many people that pour into you and invest in you in so many different ways, and it's so awesome. I'll speak for myself, but I think for these ladies as well, to be able to share that with you guys today. This is an event that I think a lot of us wish we would have had when we were your age. We're a little bit older than you, just a little bit, not much. But it's so exciting for you guys to be here, to hear from these women, to see what's possible in the world of sports. A lot of times you don't realize what doors can be opened, what careers you can have, and the opportunities that come with being an athlete. So it's really exciting to hear from these ladies today. And let's go ahead and kick off our first question. Jennifer, let's start with you. As a former professional soccer player, perseverance and grit can be central themes throughout your journey. Can you tell us what role grit played in achieving long-term success in sports, and what advice you would give to young athletes eager to develop this trait?
Yeah, I think grit is one of the main factors to long-term success. I feel like talent gets you noticed, but grit keeps you in the room, and I've carried that with me from when I was little up until my career now. Anyone can train, anyone can wake up every day and do the same thing, but what separates you is kind of what are you doing outside the field? What are you doing to better yourself as an athlete, as a player? I always talk about this, that you are more than an athlete. You are more than, how you play on the field. Obviously, performance is so important, but I think taking those baby steps to kind of choose yourself are going to benefit you in the long run, because everyone has those days where you wake up and you don't want to go train. You don't want to run that extra sprint, but that extra sprint is going to separate you from the player right next to you.
Thank you. Niani, as a current student athlete here with La Verne women's basketball team, resilience often comes from overcoming seasons and injuries, tough seasons and injuries. From your perspective, what lessons about resilience have you learned along the way, and how can athletes apply those lessons to stay motivated during challenging times?
Yeah, so I've actually been playing basketball. This is my 12th year now, so I've dealt with a couple of injuries throughout my career, 2 major ones. I think that the biggest thing I've learned with resilience is that you have to be able to adjust kind of on the fly. And what I mean by that is being able to lean into, yes, sometimes your position on the team is going to change. For example, I went from being a starter to having a heart condition that took me out for the season, but switching my mindset to how can I still support my teammates even though I can't do so on the floor? So I took it personally to be the loudest person on the bench, to help my coach with the clock, doing extra drills with my teammates, setting up workouts in the weight room, all of those kinds of things. I think now that I've gotten to college, still very similar. My position does look different as now I'm a captain. Right now I am kind of sitting out due to an injury. But yeah, same thing though, still looking to support my teammates, showing up to practice every day, recognizing that as a captain you do have less of, I guess, kind of leeway for mistakes sometimes, and just taking that, again, personally. So like I said, making sure that I'm here at practice on time, earlier than everybody else, taking my rehab very seriously, meeting with coach a couple times a week, talking about maybe the underclassmen need some support. So all things like that, and I think, like I said, just making sure, or finding that resilience in making sure that you can still support your teammates and do what you need to do, even if your position has an abrupt switch.
Now, Randy, your story is truly inspiring, and you give life to the phrase we like to use here, Leo for life. In a way that only few can claim, you have been an athlete, an undergraduate, graduate, doctoral student, a coach, an adjunct professor, and a full-time faculty here at the University of Laverne. I'm sure that journey came with its fair share of ups and downs. Can you share a moment when you encountered major failure, and how did you bounce back from that? What did that experience teach you specifically about resilience?
Yeah, so when I first came to Laverne, I was recruited to play volleyball here, and it's local to Glendora. I was really excited. The team was #1 in the nation. They just lost in the national championship another time. And by the time I got here, that head coach that had recruited me left. So my freshman year looked a lot different than what I was hoping for, and it looked a lot different and felt a lot different than the years previous. So being a freshman in college is hard enough. Adjusting to having a new coach who didn't want you and didn't recruit you was a whole other, that coach comes along later. So, you know, the original coach who recruited me was gone. The new coach wasn't a big fan of mine, so it was really tough. My freshman year, we still were successful, but it was one of the hardest years of volleyball I'd had, and it felt like this game that was so special to me and was my whole life was slipping away. And it was, you know, a time where it's a fork in the road. Do I keep going to Laverne, or do I find somewhere else that I feel like I fit? And I remember knowing that the school and the program and the game was right for me. The coach maybe wasn't right for me, but everything else was. So I stuck with it. We had one more year with him. It was really tough. And then Dr. J over here came and took over in my junior year. And it's been, you know, a great road ever since. And I've never left Laverne after that as, like we said, an athlete and a teacher, and coming back to coach and everything like that. And my jobs here at Laverne have led to my jobs out in the community as a club coach, as a high school teacher, and everything else. And I think had I had left at that point, my freshman year, I would not have had the same career opportunities in life that I have now, because I stayed and stuck it out and knew that this place was the right place for me. Maybe the people at that time weren't right, but I could tough it out and be here, and it would pay off. And I eventually became an All-American, if you can find my little name over there. And I'm very glad I stayed and gave it another chance, because that's why I'm sitting here today.
And also a crucial part of the team returning back to the national championship this year, so let's not forget that. Sulema, with everything we've spoken about so far, empowerment seems to be a central theme, not just for today's conference, but for any female athlete striving to overcome obstacles. What does empowerment mean to you personally, and how can embracing this mindset help these young women in sports?
Yeah, for me, empowerment means owning who you are. I'm from a very small town in Fresno County, and I grew up playing sports. No one looked like me. There were no girls' sports teams. I just played during recess, tried to play football, basketball, jump rope, whatever I could do to stay active. I was playing at a recreation center one day with my older cousins, and there was a coach that drove by, and you'd think, well, that's kind of weird nowadays. But there was a guy that drove by, and he's like, hey, where are your parents? I was like, my parents are at home, and I also can't speak to strangers. What are you talking about? And so my older cousins jump in, and they're like, yeah, what do you need, man? And so after a long conversation, it turns out he was a coach that was starting his own girls' club team in Fresno, and so was just randomly driving through the neighborhood, visiting a family member, and saw me playing. And so with that being said, like for me, I never had the chance to formally be scouted or be a part of a team and try out. So I really had to just pave my own way and just feel confident and empowered that I could do whatever it is I set myself out to do. And so I played soccer at a young age. I wanted to play pro. That didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. But I knew soccer was the place for me, and I wanted to stick around. So I kept volunteering. I did it through high school. I played in high school. I played a little bit in college. And then when the professional piece didn't work out for me, I was like, man, what do? I have nothing else to do. I was really torn between that's who I am and that's my identity. So after that, I had to figure out, all right, well, who am I? What am I about? What do I want to give to the world? And so I realized growing up not having those opportunities really empowered me to want to provide those opportunities for other people. So I was able to be a part of a lot of up-and-coming nonprofits that were trying to give access to play soccer and sports in general at no cost, which is huge. Not a lot of places do that now. And so now joining Angel City, I was like, okay, I have a bigger platform. I have I have a huge city to work with, and also just can create a lasting impact, not just in the US, but worldwide. And so really wanting to just own who you are, understand like all the great things that you bring to any room. I think I always had the idea that I should change and mold and fit into wherever I was so that I could be part of the team or be part of the room and the table. And so I think nowadays I've realized like if you're going into the room and you just don't fit in, I would just get out and then go join a different room, right? So you don't have to fit and mold who you are. Everything that you bring to the table is unique. And in a world where people want to be liked and followed, I think it's such a huge thing if you show up as yourself, bring all your skills, your talents that you obviously use on the field, but also have grown off the field, and do what's important to you and what matters to you.
Love that. Thank you, Sulema. Jennifer, building on kind of the same theme, how has developing self-confidence and a sense of empowerment influenced your leadership skills, and what advice would you give to these young women aspiring to lead?
Yeah, I think she said it best. It's just owning it. Owning it is one of the big things that build on leadership. And I mean, I'm sure some of you in this room lead by your voice, lead by how loud you are, or there's another half of you that lead by example. And I was one of those players where I was not the loudest whatsoever, but I led by how I played on the field. I led by how I was as a teammate. I led by, the grit that I put in the day-to-day. And your teammates see that. I'm sure a lot of you have had games where your teammate is just busting their butt and you're like, I want to get to her level. I want to be, have the same passion that she does. So yeah, leadership comes in so many different forms, and even now, I think I'm still building on how I can be a leader in different parts of my life, along with the self-confidence. I mean, all of us have days where we're not feeling as confident as yesterday. But I think, like I said before, it's the choices that you make. It's how you speak to yourself. Speak to yourself like how you're talking to a teammate. You would never tell a teammate, would never put them down. I think how you speak to yourself is very important in building self-confidence.
I love them. That kind of goes back to the mindset approach that Emily was talking about earlier. Your mind can set up a lot for you. You can sit here and you can tear yourself down, you can build yourself up. So you also don't need a title or a C on your chest to be a leader on your team, right? You can sit right bench like I did my sophomore year and still be a leader. You can be the loudest on the bench, you can be the first one up to help your teammates up, do whatever it is that they need to do. Every single one of you has the opportunity to be a leader. So now let's go to Niani. You are a dedicated student athlete and an official captain of your team. Leaning in on the hyphen between student and athlete, we know that juggling practices, schools, extracurriculars, family, other activities and responsibilities isn't easy. What does a typical week look like for you, and how do you stay motivated and organized throughout all of that?
I'll kind of separate this question into two parts. Athletically, at least, we do practice 5 times a week. Right now, since we are in the middle of the season, we're playing 2 to 3 times a week, depending on kind of the timing. We also lift twice a week. Academically, I have this semester about 1 class every day, and then nothing on Fridays. That's not always the case, though. So I think to stay organized, the biggest thing is to write down like all of your tasks, keep a planner. That's something that's helped me a lot, I think, especially staying on top of everything. You know, with practice, it's important that you're on time and you're still dedicating stuff outside of practice, time outside of practice to get better, to better your craft. I am also a 4.0 student, so to juggle that, I think that honestly, I lock myself in the library. I'm like, I really do. I sit there and I make sure I get all of my work done before I'm leaving to go hang out with friends, make sure that my timing is done or right before practice even ends, so that by the time practice is over, I can go home, eat dinner, get enough sleep for the night, do it all again the next day. So my biggest advice there is to really just try and stay organized, do what's best for you in terms of building study habits, timing, what is it that you need as a student athlete, and really honing in on that to make sure that you can juggle all of those activities.
It's always good to get the things you don't want to do out of the way so that you can enjoy the things you actually want to do.
Exactly.
So Sulema, advocating for yourself can be a game changer, whether you're a student, athlete, or in another role. Can you share an experience where advocating for yourself made a difference in your journey? And what advice would you give to young athletes about speaking up and asserting for themselves?
Yeah, when I graduated college, I went to UCLA. I started as a pre-med psych major. Realized really early on that wasn't for me, so I switched over to sociology. After I graduated, I was like, okay, I'm an adult now, I'm out in the world, I need some cash, I need to pay my phone bill, I need to do all these things left and right. And so I needed a job. And so I went back to what I knew. I became a sports coach and helped work at my local YMCA at the time. And when I was there for about a year and a half or so, and my supervisor got a different role, switched on over to a different opportunity. And so the director position was open, especially sports director. I was like, great, that sounds awesome. I could do that. So I was named interim sports director for a long time. And so during that time frame, I was like, man, like I could do this. I got to showcase that I can do this. No one really taught me how to go about doing the job. I was just learning and trying to ask questions and do the best I could to make sure that maybe people would see me for that job. While I was doing that, I was also in the police academy trying to figure out what my career was going to be. And I was like, how maybe I could be a police officer. And the main reasons why I chose that was because, one, I like to wear blue. And I was like, great, that's the uniform. I got it. And two, I also knew I like to be active. And I can't sit behind a desk. I can't just, go about my day, do the same thing every day. And I like to help people. So this could be a career for me. So I was in the academy. Right before, the first week in, I remember going into my supervisor's office at the time at the YMCA where I was interim director. And I was like, hey, I'm really diving into this police academy thing. I probably will only have 2 weeks left here. What are you thinking? do you think I could be the sports director? I really want to stay involved in sports. I know that's my passion, and I know that's how I like to help people. And if it weren't for me going into the office and just sitting down and saying, hey, do you think I'm going to get this job or not? Because it's going to dictate my next step. I probably wouldn't be here today. I probably would be, my biggest goal was to be a behavior analyst in the FBI, so probably could be doing that. But the biggest challenge was that I couldn't keep playing soccer if I was in the academy for just fear of getting hurt. So if it weren't for that, me just stepping up, feeling a little bit of anger, because when you feel angry, it's because your body's respecting who you are. So the fact that I was like, man, I still haven't been selected. There's been no person named in this sports director position. I should apply. I should put my name in the ring. And so when I did that, that's when my boss at the time was like, yeah, you know what? I didn't even know you were interested. Let's go ahead and make you the official sports director. So then at that time, I was like, okay, thanks, Police Academy. I'm out. I'm going to go teach soccer and be involved in soccer and all these other sports. But if it weren't for that conversation and me just sitting in that room, closing the door behind me and saying, hey, I know you're busy, but do you have some time to talk? I probably wouldn't be here today.
Well, we're glad you had that conversation. Randy, there are times where a person will need to stand up for themselves, and there are going to be times when they need to look to others for support. What role do mentors, role models, or supportive peers play in empowering female athletes, and how can young women seek out or even become these sources of inspiration for others?
So this might age me a little bit, but your athletic directors will remember this. There was a commercial in the 90s of Mia Hamm and Michael Jordan, and they were playing all these sports back and forth with each other, and she kept saying, anything you can do, I can do better. And I remember watching that commercial as a young girl and thinking, yeah, I can do anything that anyone else can do. And started, being really competitive in sports, being really competitive in volleyball specifically. And I had a female head coach at Glendora High School. And eventually when I came to Laverne, I had a female head coach. And I had a lot of female teachers and a lot of female leaders. I had a single mom growing up. And I saw women in positions of representation of places I wanted to be. I want to be a teacher and a coach at a high school. I want to coach a college volleyball team. I want to teach. I want to be at the college level as a woman leading. And so I took that I can do anything you can do and just put my heart and mind to it and decided that's what I'm going to do. And as far as representation goes for young student athletes, I like to show young student athletes you can be a mom. I have 3 sons. You can be a good wife, you can be a good teacher, you can be a good volleyball player and then be a good volleyball coach. And you can do all of these things and excel at all of them if you want to do it. And being ready isn't a time you're going to come to, it's a choice you're going to make. And if you're ready to do all those things and you have the right support around you and you see that representation that I got to see from my mom and my coaches and my teachers, I can see that I can do it too. And then I keep my goals as a leader in women's sports, paving the way for others. I wrote my dissertation on why female volleyball coaches are better than male volleyball coaches. So I like to say that it's been researched and proven that female volleyball coaches are better, and you're gonna win if you have a female coach. So I like to lead the sport and the industry saying that I'm paving the way and showing representation of being a multifaceted person as a mom and a career person and a volleyball coach and a mentor for all of the people that I get to influence and show them that it can be done.
Awesome, thank you. As we near the end of our discussion, I want to give all of our speakers on stage one final chance to share some words of wisdom. Based on your personal experiences, what is one piece of advice you wish you had been given when you were a high school athlete that could empower the next generation? No specific order, just as it comes to you guys.
I would say fall in love with the process. I think as an athlete and even as people, you go through so many highs and so many lows, but being able to reflect on where you are now, where you were a week ago, 2 months ago, will play a big role in your success. Also, I would say just live in the moment. I think we get so caught up. I mean, at your age, I was always thinking about the future, always comparing myself to the teammate next to me, my friend, or etc. But I think staying in your own lane, I know that's really hard, especially with social media, with TikTok, Instagram, all of that. But I wish someone told me, you're going to be just fine as long as you work hard, focus on yourself, and know what you want for yourself with the passions that you indulge in or whatever you want to do in life, whether you're an athlete or not. And that leads me to my next point, is that don't let your athleticism categorize you as a person. You guys are, again, all more than athletes. You're a daughter, you're a girlfriend, you're a cousin, you're all of these things. And I think at the end of the day, no one's going to remember, the goal that you made unless it was really good. But everyone's going to remember the person that you are. So I think that's super important.
I think the biggest one for me would be to choose yourself. I think that I kind of struggled with that in my latter years of high school, just because I felt like I was doing a lot to kind of fulfill what my parents wanted for me or the rest of my family. And it kind of took a moment in senior year to be like, no, this is my life. I want to do what I want to do with it. And I think in choosing yourself, it also helps you come to I guess you could say better decisions. I feel like before I transferred to Laverne, I probably wouldn't have gone to the school I went to before this had I chosen myself. And then choosing yourself in that, what am I trying to say? In that, you're not going to let anybody else deter what it is that you want to do. I think also in high school, kind of beginning, I made the varsity team my freshman year, and a lot of the upperclassmen, they kind of bullied me a little bit. And I think they were just trying to instill fear and kind of, big dog you. And just being able to say no, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I'm here for, what I got recruited for. And I'm gonna fulfill that. So it doesn't matter what you say, don't say, whatever. I owe it to myself to see that through. So I think that would be my biggest piece of advice in high school.
I think for me, when I was going to high school, I was also a first generation high school graduate, then a first generation college graduate. I felt like I had a lot of pressure. I felt like I was holding how a soccer jersey, you're holding the last name on your back. And I felt like I was holding, my family's history and everything as I was walking through the hallways of all these different places. So I wish someone would have told me, hey, you're you, do what you want, but also, feel free to make mistakes. I felt like I had no room to make any mistakes. I had to make sure every single step I took in the journey was the right one so that I wouldn't fail all these people, or I wouldn't, show my brother the wrong way because he was younger than I was. And so I felt like I had so much pressure. And if I would have taken a chance to make mistakes, learn new things, take on some skills, say yes to things I probably would have said yes to if I wasn't too scared to try something new, meet new people, even just go to new places. I think I would have probably be more skilled in different areas, but I think that would be the biggest thing for me. I was just too scared to make a mistake. It's almost like, when if you don't even take the shot, you might not even score, but all those things where if you don't even try, you go around thinking, man, I should have tried, or man, I should have done this. But it's really important, especially now at this age, try it. If you're hey, I'm really good at soccer, but you want to play basketball next year, try basketball. If you are really good at basketball and you're I just, don't want to play and pick up an instrument, go pick up an instrument. Do anything you feel like you want to check out right now, because this is the time to do it. And this is when you can make those, not even mistakes, it's going to be guiding lights that take you to the journey that's meant for you.
Kind of piggybacking off of the journey, I have this Kobe Bryant quote that I love. It's on my email signature. It says, "May you always remember to enjoy the road, especially when it's a hard one." So my advice to you guys is when things are hard, that's what makes it good. The hard work is what brings you to the good times. You know, the hard practices are what get you through the hard games. The hard tests are what get you the better grade. So remember when you're going through those hard times, you're building character. And remember, like our previous speaker said, female student athletes go really far in life. And they are prepared to go do things in our community and in your careers and what you choose to do. You are better prepared for that than your peers that didn't play sports. So as you go through these harder moments in high school and as you go into maybe the recruiting process, if you're gonna try to go to the next level, it's going to be hard, but you're part of a very small percentage of people that get to do that. So enjoy that hard part because it's going to lead to something good.
Embrace the suck is what we used to say here, right? I remember when we were, Coach Durant is our strength and conditioning coach here. He's been here longer than some of you might have been alive. Embrace the suck. Whether it's another set of sprints, another rep, another anything. It doesn't have to be on the court or on the field. It can be in the classroom. Do the extra step. Do the extra things because when you are in overtime and your other team that you're playing against is dragging because they're not conditioned properly, you're ready for it. Right? So your preparation leads to your execution. Make sure that when you guys are doing things, you're not just doing it to do it and check the boxes. Actually do it. Right? You're here, you're investing the time in it. Be present and understand that everything that you guys are doing is going to shape who you are in the future. Let's give a big round of applause to our panelists up here and a big thank you. You guys have shared such incredible experiences. I've learned so much about each and every one of you and your journeys. Now, I'm sure there are a couple more things we want to learn, and let's open the floor up to some questions. We have some mics floating around here. If you guys have any questions for anyone on the panel, go ahead and raise your hand, and they will work their way towards you. Girl, you don't need a mic, just yell.
What would you say that there's a different experience being coached by a female coach than being coached by a male?
I'll start with that. Yes, there are differences, but depending on your personality and what you work better with, that experience could be good, could be bad, could be indifferent. I think as a student athlete, you don't get to choose your coach most of the time. You don't get to choose your coach. And the best thing you can do for yourself as a student athlete is work as hard as you can in that coach's system and have the best result from that. But if you do have a choice of your coach, meaning you're going into college recruiting and you're going to choose a school and you do have a preference, that's definitely a question and things you should be asking on your recruiting trips and trying to figure out so that you're better prepared to succeed wherever you choose to go.
Sorry. What's one way you deal with your mental health? Because I know it could be very draining playing sports. Like, how did you, keep yourself in playing the game?
I think the biggest thing, like you said, in juggling all of these, little things, it's not just sports, right? Like what was spoken earlier, being where your feet are. For me, the biggest thing I had to do was figure out stuff that I like to do that's unattached to, friends, family, school, basketball, all of that stuff. So when I was living in San Diego, a lot of that time it would be like, oh, I'm just gonna go to the beach and read, Or recently, I've picked up baking. So now when I'm stressed or at the end of the week, I'm like, man, I can't wait to bake, muffins or sourdough bread, whatever it is. But just finding something that you're passionate about and that you can pour yourself into that's maybe unrelated to all the daily tasks you have to complete.
There was talked a lot about like self-confidence, and was there someone that helped with gaining that self-confidence, or did you build that on your own, and how did you do that?
I mean, I feel like growing up, I had really great teammates. I think on my club team, thankfully I was on a great club team with great people. All the girls went to D1 colleges, and I think surrounding yourself with people who have the same mindset that you do, and just really supporting each other and making sure that every choice that you make leads to what you want in life. And I think making the right choices can help you be confident in where your feet are.
Hello. It's regarding like how all of you guys are like in team sports, like these different kind of people that you react with, like your teammates, like the bads and like positive, like how has that realistically made you like behave with other people, like in your like careers?
That's a great question. So like anything you do as part of a team, right? There's people, if you're lucky, you love everyone on the team. Sometimes you just get along and tolerate other people on your team. It could just really depend what that year looks like. Because of those skills that you build in working as part of a team and trying to achieve a common goal, you really walk away with using those skills in your personal life, and it impacts your career as well. So in your career, especially like for me, I'm in sports, you meet so many people from across the world. Not everyone thinks the same way you do. Not everyone has a similar background. So you have to be able to connect with different people. And you won't also click with everyone, and that's just normal. So it's just being able to manage those relationships so that you can still be successful and your team can be successful along the way. And then hopefully, you know, maybe by the end of whatever you're trying to accomplish, you do become friends with that person, or you learn something new about yourself, and you just kind of keep it moving as you're going through the career and even college as well.
So how did you guys ever deal with the coach that you felt like brought down your mental health?
I guess since I spoke about not liking my coach when I first got here, I'll answer that. I leaned heavily on my teammates, and I leaned heavily into the assistant coaches and my family and friends, and tried to really separate the tone and the delivery of the message from the head coach, and really tried to find the good and find what is he really saying that I need to know. Because at the end of the day, like, coaches get jobs for a reason. They're good at what they do. They're professionals, right? So let me take, maybe I don't like the way he's saying this to me, but maybe what he is saying is good, and I owe it to myself here at this school to be part of the program to really try my best at what he's saying, whether I like him or not. And so in practice, it was, yes, coach, and do what I need to do. And outside of practice, it was leaning heavily on my teammates and us kind of working our way through a really tough couple of seasons, and figuring out, you know, how do we get through this? He's not getting any better. And then leaning on other leaders in the athletic department. People always have your back. There's always trusted adults around. There's always people who will listen to you if you go about it the right way. We didn't go to people complaining, saying, fire our coach. We went to people saying, give us a solution, help us get through this, help us understand how to do better this way. So approaching that the right way is really important, and being true to yourself and working as hard as you can through that instead of quitting is really important. Because even though that year was really terrible, we still got to play into the regional finals. I still got to play, and I have teammates for life from that group. There's still so much good that came out of it that if I would have quit, wouldn't have been given to me.
Adding on to the self-confidence question, what is like a good quote or piece of advice that can help strengthen our self-confidence?
I love that you asked for a quote. There's actually one that I repeat to myself. I have it framed in my bathroom as well. And it's, she believed she could, so she did. And I think that one really resonates with me, because if you don't believe in yourself, what are you gonna do, you know? And so I think just recognizing that, yeah, when you do get to those hard times or those difficult situations, you're like, I realize what I'm capable of, we're gonna get through this, and then come up with a plan, so.
I have a question specifically for Randy. I have a question for Randy specifically. My name's Sam. I'm a volleyball player at Glendora. I remember watching your team play at the finals, and I was thinking how inspiring it was to see you and your players there, and I was wondering what was going through your mind at that moment.
So she's speaking of our team here. We went to the national championship in early December, so not that long ago. It was the whole 24 hours before. It honestly felt like a little kid with Christmas. Like, we couldn't sleep. We were like, what do we do now? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. You talk all the time. You guys know, as athletes, your coaches set goals for you. We're gonna win league. We're gonna go to CIF. Maybe we're gonna win CIF. We're gonna go to state playoffs. You have goals, right? So for our team, a goal always for years had been to get back to the national championship and win it. So it was here, we did it. We were back to the national championship. We were playing a team that we had already played and beaten this year. So we were so excited. We just wanted the game to happen. Unfortunately, we did not win, but the emotions and going through that just felt really like all that work, everything we've done, all those goals we set, all those days where it was so hot in here or so cold in here, and we had really hard games that we had to battle really hard to win. That was all to get right here, right now in this moment, and just kind of like taking a deep breath and soaking it in, and like knowing that family and friends at home were watching, you know, on ESPN. Like, that's something that as a grown woman, you think about your whole life, you know, like if you're a sports kid like you guys are, like, whoa, we got to be on ESPN, like. And then personally, as an alumni, I didn't get to play in a national championship, but to get to be with that team and coach a national championship was something that we'll remember forever. It was truly one of the best experiences. And I just want to take the time to say, if you are thinking, like, I want to play in college, but I'll only play for a D1, there's 22 girls that chose to play for a Division III that got to play in a national title match. We had the National Player of the Year. We had multiple All-Americans. We have huge trophies that we all get to keep, and experiences that, had they gone to lower D1s, maybe they wouldn't have got to have. So don't count it out, because the experience and the competitiveness is the same across all divisions.
All right, we have time for 3 more questions. 3 more questions.
Hi, my name's Mia. I'm a freshman at Omani, and I'm a triathlete. How do you prevent the fear of making mistakes from holding you back from giving your all?
That's a really good question. I think that there's always going to be that fear, you know, that little voice in the back of your head that's like, oh, you know, what if, right? But I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give you is owning the work that you've put in before you got to that moment. Like a triathlete, that's a lot of time that you're putting into, you know, during your school week to be able to show up to your competition, show up with your team and be like, hey, like, I put the work in for this, let me excel right now. And I think that trying to flip your mindset from, instead of being like, okay, I'm afraid, you know, what if coach gets mad at me? What if I get subbed? What if I don't get the right time? Whatever. To, I know I put the work in. I know I'm capable of doing this. Let me try to outdo myself from last time. Let me see what I can better. And then use those moments, if you don't succeed, as a learning opportunity, right? It's like, okay, what adjustments can I make for the next time I race, or the next time I'm gonna shoot a free throw or spike the ball, whatever, you know? So.
I would say another thing is if you're not making mistakes and you're not growing, I think the fact that you're a triathlete is incredible and you should be very proud of yourself. If you feel like you're in your comfort zone and you're not making mistakes, you are not going to get to the next level. So the fact that you're even aware of, okay, well, I don't want to make a mistake, and that's everyone. That's even us up here. We never want to make mistakes, but we're human and we do. But the way that you handle those mistakes or that wrong pass or that wrong shot is going to make you that much better as a player.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline, and I was wondering, like, in a high intense game, how do you find a way to ground yourself and stay calm during the game?
I know, I'm like, I guess I am the current athlete, huh? Man, there's a couple things I do, I think. I especially like to do like deep breaths in moments of like kind of passing or pausing. I think specifically with basketball, it's like when I'm transitioning from offense to defense, sometimes I do have a second to be like, okay. I'm like, okay, we're here, I'm where my feet are, what's my next assignment? Also like taking the time to maybe do meditation before the game, or I actually like to do the reverse. If I'm going into an intense game, listening to music that's calming for me, so that when I go into it after tip-off, I'm like, my nerves aren't shot. I'm like, I'm level, I'm able to make educated decisions and go throughout the game.
Hi. Was there ever a time where you felt like you doubted yourself? Is there a way where you could build up your confidence?
Yeah, I mean, doubt creeps in every day, I'd say, even now as an adult. So the way that I dealt with that and just try to build confidence is what everyone has kind of already said. Make sure you're putting in the work when you're at practice, when you're in class. Make sure you're doing everything you possibly can to help yourself be successful in whatever you decide to do. And once you make sure that you do that, then when you have that doubt, and it feels funny, but I even do it now, is you could talk to yourself and just look yourself in the mirror and be like, hey, I've already did A, B, C, and D to be ready for this. I can do it. And even if you don't do it, right? Like that happens often. Sometimes, you know, as adults, you can try to get another job. You can try to graduate, all these. I'm still going to school now, too, to get a degree in football business. So there's times where even going back to getting grades, I was like, oh, man, what if I get a bad grade? So it really just is, just try. And if you do get a bad grade, there's always a chance to redo something, resubmit something. And if you mess up, you know, playing a sport, there's always the next play. There's always the next game. And so just keep trying and just talk to yourself during that doubt and try to make yourself just remind yourself of all the work you've put in, and talk to yourself as if you were talking to your best friend. You're not going to tear your best friend down. You're going to make sure you build them up. So do that same kind of mentality in speaking to yourself so that you're nicer to who you are, and just be prepared no matter what, so that when you take that on, you're good to go.
Awesome. We really appreciate your questions today and hope you gained some great insights. We cannot wait to see all the amazing things that you guys, especially all up here, achieve in the future. So let's give one last round of applause for our panelists up here. Thank you, ladies, so much for your time and your wisdom. I'm sure there's so much that is going to be taken from this and held on to for hopefully a lifetime.